Welcome to Tantrums and Tabletops. I'm Ben. It's time to get in the time machine because we're going on another adventure. Join me after this. So in this video, we're travelling back to the days of leg warmers, roller skates and karate movies. We're going to have a look at what was happening with Games Workshop in October 1988. To do so, we're going to take a look through the dusty pages of White Dwarf 106. Outside of Games Workshop, what else was happening in October 1988? Well, at the box office, we were watching A Fish Called Wanda and Good Morning Vietnam. On TV, kids were being entertained by Charlie Chalk and the Gang. Enya had a #1 single with Orinoco Flow, and a #1 album went to Bon Jovi with New Jersey. And still, the most important part of our look at 1988, the World Wrestling Federation champion was still the Macho Man Randy Savage.
But guess who shows up for no reason at all to get his grandstanding and hot dogging in?
So the cover art, just like last time, it's bold, it's colourful, it's 80s, it's awesome. Again, the art's by David Gallagher, and it features some pretty cool looking Nurgle dudes. For those keeping score, the price of this issue is still £1.50, which is still a lot less than today. And let's not waste any time, let's jump under the cover and see what's happening. So the inside front cover, available this winter, Dark Future, White Line Fever. Introducing advanced maneuvers, rear-facing weapons and special missile types, plus fully expanded design rules for custom-built cars with computerized targeting, souped-up engines, improved armor, and much more. So yeah, it's advanced rules for the game of Highway Warriors. So again, Dark Future is clearly something Games Workshop are really pushing at this point in time. I wonder why it died off. I don't know, let me know in the comments. Again, we've got all the artists credited. Well done again. The contents, we've got the contents list. Let's have a little look through those. And as we go, we'll carry on. So we've got a 2-page spread of the retail network at the time. So all of the direct retail stores and the independent specialist stockists. Look at this little guy, he's special. So the Culture Shock feature this month has a feature on Marauder miniatures, which some people may say, Smith, what's Marauder miniatures? Other people will fondly remember them, and this is the introduction. So, over the past 5 years, Trish and Ali Morrison have created some of Citadel's finest miniatures, but recently they've decided to spread their wings and venture into the harsh world of commercial enterprise on their own behalf. It seems the time has come to leave the protection of their comfortable nest in the Nottingham design studio and work in their own miniature company. Marauder, as the company is called, will be producing a wide range of fantasy and science fiction miniatures, starting with orcs, goblins and dwarfs. We've had a sneak preview of the first releases and can assure you that they show all of the craft and skill you'd expect from two of the country's most prolific and popular designers. And then it goes into the fact that Ali and Trish have said that Games Workshop will be the official distributors of the models. Here we have a picture of a very young and fresh-faced Ali and Trish. And some people may know Trish as Trish Carden. And you can find Trish on social media as Monster Girl Trish. Go and check out all of her work, it's actually incredible. So in the rest of the article, we get told that Cy Forrest and Paul Murphy are both joining the team. Both are working on Realm of Chaos, along with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Adventures. Then there's a bit of information about some Blood Bowl supplements. And finally, Games Workshop Glasgow is the latest news from north of the border. The first Scottish Games Workshop store is due to open its doors in early October. Next up, for the metalheads in the audience, we have this article on the band Bolt Thrower. It goes into some detail about how they're named after the orcish weapon and how they've descended upon the Games Workshop design studio. It says the imagery evoked by Bolt Thrower is indeed reminiscent of the despair and helplessness present in the black reality of Warhammer 40,000, and also mentions how the band are avid players of Blood Bowl. Next, we have Critical Mass, which is a book review column written by Dave Langford. So there's sci-fi fantasy, pirate books, there's some work by J.A.R. Tolkien in here. But yeah, and apparently this was the last column that Dave Langford wrote under Critical Mass. I don't know if he wrote for White Dwarf again after this, but this was the end of this column. Next up is the mail order section. The first 3 featured items are all books. We've got Realm of Chaos Slaves to Darkness, priced at $14.99. We have the Fantasy Miniatures, the Golden Demon Award winners 1988. And then we have the Citadel Miniatures Catalogue Part 1. We have some new plastic craters for 40k. So available from October, 4 sheets of craters for £1.99. Then we have a small advert for the combat cards, which is like a trading card combat game. Snipe and Wib did an excellent video on that, I'll put that in the comments. Then there's more books on Warhammer Armies, Warhammer Townscape, Something Rotten in Kislev, which is a Warhammer fantasy roleplay book, I believe. Then just a bunch of features on items that are coming out for Dark Future. The Eldar Harlequin box, which was previewed in the last issue. We've got an advert for the Games Workshop Nottingham reopening on the 15th of October. And it says there was a limited edition I Was There t-shirt. Now I tried to find this fine garment to see what it looked like, and the internet has not popped up any answers. I tried the old Hammer groups on Reddit, thanks to everyone in there who answered, but there's nothing. So if you have one of these t-shirts, send us a picture via email. So in the last video, the Elder Harlequins were the cover stars. You can find that video here. And in this issue, we have the army list. Following our look at the mysterious masks of the Elder Harlequins last issue, we now present details of Harlequin forces in Warhammer 40,000. So there's an introduction that tells us the army list can be used to create an all-Harlequin force, or to create a Harlequin-aligned contingent for an Elder force. Harlequins will not normally fight alongside non-Eldar. However, a non-Eldar force may include a Harlequin contingent as allies or mercenaries, if the enemy is a Chaos force. So that's pretty cool. This was back in the time you could take factions that weren't part of your main army as an ally. And I remember in 2nd edition there were tables of who could ally with who and who couldn't, so that was pretty cool back then. So in the robots and vehicles section, it tells us that Harlequin forces are known to use robots and vehicles from time to time, painted in their distinctive bright colours and patterns. Robots are sometimes used in performance as well as in battle, being programmed to dance in their clumsy and amusing way as a counterpoint to the movements of the Harlequins themselves. Vehicles and robots are acquired by various means, and the Harlequins take little interest in their origins or their state of repair. So that's pretty interesting that you could field an Eldar army burning around in Land Raiders. You can do that now. Vehicles and robots can only be fielded with a Harlequin force if the models are suitably painted and bedecked with appropriate banners. It is not permissible, for instance, simply to take a Rhino in a Codex standard paint scheme with Imperial banners and attach it to a Harlequin force. So it's okay to nick vehicles as long as you paint them up to look garish, colourful and fun.
No.
Got a quote here from everyone's favourite and the very best Primarch, Lehman Russ. "Harden your soul against decadence, but do not despise it, for the soft appearance of the decadent may be deceptive. One need only consider the Harlequin dances of the Eldar to see the truth of their proposition." Wise words, Great Wolf. Wise words. The next couple of pages we have character profiles and stat lines for all of the different characters. Then we've got individual profiles for the different parts of the army. So in your army you may take 1 to 6 Harlequin troops, and there's the profile for those. So 5 troopers plus 1 avatar. A high avatar, you can take him as a minor hero or a major hero, the points difference there. Death Jesters, 0 to 6 squads. 0 to 1 high warlock, 0 to 6 warlocks, 0 to 1 solitaire in your army. Again, cool different weaponry. Character equipment charts. So it tells us the necessary requirements to be able to take these different things. So let's have a look at the table. Down the bottom here, some Jakero weapon charts. Then we've got another advert for the Elder Harlequins army box, the Dancers of Death. 18 exquisite miniatures for Warhammer 40,000. So the models were designed by Jess Goodwin. And they're just awesome. They're of the time, they're colourful, they're characterful. And it does warn us, the product contains lead which may be half-lived, chewed or swallowed. So don't eat your models, especially old ones. So we have another quote from everyone's favourite Primarch, Lehman Russ. However, it's exactly the same quote that was printed several pages before. Nice work, editor. Nice work. Next up we have Regiments of Renown, the Boar Boys. So this article has given us some background on Brat's Boar Boys, the savage orc boar riders that we've heard so much about. Rockyug was an orc veteran, a hero of no end of really big scraps, and generally an all-round hard case. We have this colourful artwork of the regimental standard, the typical hogshead shield motif, but many boar boys use their own coat of arms. We have stat tables for using the boar boys in your army. We have an inspirational quote from Brat Saxon Snapper, the boar boys leader. "Hit 'em fast, hit 'em hard, hit 'em below the belt." Words to live by. There's a glossary of orc terms which we can look at now. We've got a page advertising these models. I believe these are new this month. So they're all pretty cool. Again, that classic 80s Warhammer Fantasy style. These were designed by Kevin Adams. Dark Future, A Day at the Races by Tom Scutt. The engine's roar is all I can hear, and we're not even moving yet. The road ahead shimmers in the heat rising from the hood. I hardly notice as the red light turns green. So this article is introducing drag racing and circuit racing to the game of Dark Future. Since their first appearance in 1993, armed motorsports have been hugely successful, both in their own right and as a marketing venture. Those companies that took the plunge and invested in the sport after its legislation reaped rich rewards. Initial outlay on constructing racetracks and attracting participants was soon recouped from ever-increasing gate receipts, television rights sales and sponsorship deals. The money came flooding in. So the article is basically telling us how to set up a racing career as a character. It's saying you can join teams, how you earn money as you progress through your career. There's a bit about how to upgrade your car, so this example, plastic armour and the cost per panel. You can add different size engines, different tyres. It's telling us how we can add weapons to the cars. So here we have the napalm layer. Other weapons are all sort of bang bang, you're dead things. Napalm ain't like that. It's more like a disease. So we've got the information on how the napalm layer works, the napalm hit test, the spread test, and a napalm critical table. So if you're used to the simplified gaming experience we get from Games Workshop these days, the tables may look a bit daunting, they do to me, but it's a product of the time. Got this excellent art. Then we have some different vehicle classes. So here we look at a jalopy. The humble jalopy is the starting point of almost every racing driver's career. These cars are usually insurance write-offs or ex-company cars which have been rebuilt and fitted with mountings for weapons. Jalopies are fairly slow, poorly armoured and handle badly, but they're cheap. Like most of my cars. Here we have the stats and the information, the cost to buy one, the cost to upgrade it. We have a little bit of information about the new rules. Some rules for circuit racing, some rules for drag racing. Blood Bowl, pitch variations by ace coach Jervis Johnson. Each of the many Blood Bowl leagues spread throughout the old world practice some variation of the Blood Bowl rules. Ace coach Jervis Johnson covers some of the most popular variations here. So this is giving us rules for ways to customise your pitch and the way you play Blood Bowl. So first of all, it's telling us about pit traps. At the start of the game, each player is given 6 pit trap counters. 3 of these say nothing, 2 are pit traps and 1 is a spiked pit trap. Coaches may position these counters face down anywhere in their own half of the pitch before the game begins. Whenever a player from either side enters a square containing a counter, it is turned over. So that's pretty cool and can spice up the way you play the game. There's some Blood Bowl trivia. Did you know? Spike pit traps came into use after members of the Lowdown Rats complained to their coach that falling into a pit trap just didn't hurt enough. Landed on me head, didn't feel a thing, they would say. The coach, who has now faded into deserved obscurity, came up with the idea of placing spikes at the bottom of the pits, just to silence the complaining players. The Rats went through a lot of substitutes that season. There's a feature on alternative balls, Spiky Death Ball, which is made of wood with several crude iron spikes driven through it. This makes the ball heavier and the catcher's job trickier, but introduces potential for the ball to be used as a weapon. You can also play a game with 2 balls. Then there's a section on Mega Blood Bowl, or Mega Bowl, which allows 4 teams to take part in a game on a specially extended pitch, making it by far the most spectacular and entertaining variant of the game yet devised. So this is telling us that we'd need 2 sets of Blood Bowl and 4 players to play this game. Here's the picture on how we would set the pitch up. And then there's some more rules on how we can play Mega Bowl. Night of Mystery, a solo Warhammer Fantasy roleplay adventure by Carl Sargent. Night of Mystery is a solitaire Warhammer Fantasy roleplay adventure complete with a suitable character. You may either customise the character or replace it with one of your own if you wish, but we're not telling you the best career path to choose. Your adventure will tax both your character's wits and brawn. Read the sections on rules and background before you begin. Today is
Geheimnisnacht.
Night of Mystery. So here we've got some information on the character. We've got his stat line, his skills, trappings that he has, magic he knows, and fate points. So what I really like about this, from the looks of it, is it looks very similar to the games I played as a kid, where you had a book and it would say you approach a staircase. If you go up the stairs, turn to page 63. If you turn around, turn to page 24 or whatever. You turn the page, it would tell you the next part of the adventure, and so on and so on and so on. Invariably you'd make a wrong decision and you'd end up being eaten by a goblin. That's just the way it was. But let's take a look. So then it's giving us the steps of what we need to do. So it's telling you here, let's take step 7. What will you do now that you've tracked down the thieves? Will you back away and keep watch on the front door? Turn to 31. Attack the men, turn to 50. Go in and try talking to them, 17. So let's try this here. So 17, we'll try talking to them. Make a fellowship test. If you succeed, turn to 51. If you fail, turn to 34. Let's assume we failed, because that is the way. The men seem almost friendly, and it's a ruse you fail to detect. The taller man whips round with his sword and strikes out at you. Turn to 37 to conduct combat, and in the first combat round this man gets a free strike at you before you can do anything, and you can't use the dodge skill either. So 37. Okay, so we have then the information about the guy who's attacking us. I'm not going to spoil the rest of the game in case you want to play it yourself. No spoilers, this dude looks like he's been very helpful. The end. Next up, we have a feature on Realm of Chaos, The Lost and the Damned by Mike Brunton and Brian Ansell. So the feature this month is all about Chaos Beastmen. 3 millennia ago, when Chaos made its original incursion into the world, warpstone dust was spewed into the atmosphere by the collapse of the warp gates. The dust and larger lumps of Chaos stuff were spread far and wide, tainting the land and creatures with which they came into contact. Insanity and mutation changed existing beasts and created new races from the old. As time progressed, the Chaos waste ebbed and flowed, as did the influence of Chaos itself. The damage, however, was done, and new populations of creatures had been established. Many eventually stabilized in their gross forms, becoming new races of half men and half beasts. Individual creatures continued to vary wildly, often too foul and distorted to support themselves. Many crawled away from their untainted or marginally affected brethren, seeking the dark places below the earth or deep within the Chaos wastes. So it's given us background on the different Beastmen of Chaos from the different factions. What I can see here is whoever owned this magazine before me may have become a Chaos Beastman themselves and eaten some of the book. Cheers, previous owner. So this is the Days of Square bases, so Beastmen should be mounted on 25 by 25mm bases. Beastmen of Khorne, Beastmen of Slaanesh, Beastmen of Nurgle. Look at this little guy. And Beastmen of Tzeentch. Next up, we've got an article on craters in Warhammer 40,000 by Rick Priestley. Heavy Metal's next. This gallery has 2 projects that staffers at the studio have been quietly beavering away at. So this is items that have been seen in the Fantasy Miniatures book and combat cards. It's customised Rhino, it's pretty cool. Check out the this guy. Games Workshop wants you to work for them. Interested in joining the expanding editorial team in the Nottingham Design Studio? Could you cope with work on a variety of systems to tight deadlines? Then you could be just the person we're looking for. So Games Workshop needs you if you're an editor, developer, game designer or writer, and a wargame designer. Now they're quite upfront at the bottom here. Starting salaries aren't vast. We tend to increase pay as people settle in and create their own niche within the company. Which is interesting, at least they're honest about the fact they're going to pay you all. Then we've got some letters to Grombrindle, the White Dwarf, Sandy the Walrus, Nico Mikkonen, Ian Roddick, John Concannon, Jonathan Hall, James Robinson, Daniel Victove, Sam Stockdale and Michael Pope. Any of you watching this? Let us know in the comments. The final 2 pages are adverts. So one, the page is half torn. I'd like to presume this was for Ron Claw, the Goblin, but it's Iron Claw Goblins. Designed by Bob Ollie. Warhammer Townscape, card buildings for Warhammer games, so card terrain. That's really cool. And then an advert for Dark Future Battle Cars, available this autumn. So just like that, our time in the 80s has come to an end again. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to give it a like. If you enjoy what we're doing on the channel, please give us a subscribe, it really helps us out. If there's anything you'd like to see in future episodes, or if there's anything that you'd like me to go into more detail on, please let us know in the comments. So all that's left is for me to try and get back to 2023. So... not again. I'll get the hang of this before too long, I promise. See you in the next one.